and Citadel Dispatch. And it's in one kit on BTC pins, limited set of like 60, 65 pins, I think. And yeah, all the profits from that is going to go towards OpenSats to go fund more free and open source projects. So go check that out. Consider grabbing a set and supporting free and open source software development. It's really cool. Other than that, from my end, things have been a little slow. I got a couple other commitments that have been holding me back. But next week, we're going to be off to the races with Zeus Dev and getting that redesign out to everyone's hands, at least in an alpha form. So yeah, reach out if you want to get involved with our little dev community. We're just trying to scale up a little bit more now. We've been getting some pretty cool contributors getting involved, but we have a weekly design meeting on Wednesdays. You all should join that, even if you're just a user and you want to give us some feedback. And we're trying to do developer meetings on Tuesday. I think we're going to mess around with the time slot there until we find one that works for everyone. But yeah, just reach out, get involved. We're on Slack, we're on Telegram, we're on Twitter, our DMs are open. And of course, we're all free and open source software. You can find us on GitHub. Main website is zeuslm.app.
Nice. So these pins, are they actual pins? Are they stickers, or what's the set like?
Yeah, they're enamel pins. They look pretty nice. I'm still waiting to get my set. It's coming in the mail. But yeah, you could go, put them on your bag, your shirt, and a hat. And yeah, the whole set is about the size of like a deck of cards. It's custom branded with all our stuff plus open sats. And yeah, I'm just really happy that Zeus got included in just like a great group of projects, like Raspberry Blitz. That's the first node I ran, and that's my favorite node platform. That's awesome. BTC Pay Server that's in the mix there. That's pretty much the most important project outside of Core and the Lightning implementations in my eyes. Then Bisq is a super great way to get KYC free sats. Citadel Dispatch, I love Matt's show. I've been on it a whole bunch of times. It's just an awesome group of pins, great group of projects. So really pumped about that. And yeah, just looking for more great stuff from BTC Pins. I'm hoping he does another set with some more projects, and he keeps it going. But yeah, I was really happy to see that come together and to play my little part in getting that out to everyone. But yeah, they're real pins.
Awesome. And let's see, for Amboss news, this week we enabled communities, which that essentially enables you to add a label onto your node page so that you're able to associate with these different communities. And that would be separate from any of the communication mediums that most people kind of organize the different Lightning communities. And so we added this feature, and we made it so that instead of having a paywall for this type of community to get formed, we made it so that you have to get approvals from the nodes that are already in that community. So you'll have to share a request link for someone inside that community to approve you. So I'm getting to watch the Diamond Hands community, which is based out of Japan, kind of compete with PlebNet, which is mostly US based, and compete for the most amount of members in their respective Amboss communities. So it's been pretty fun. For the most part, it's been well received. We've definitely got some critical feedback and lots of bugs to work through, but I think people really like having that label shown on their node pages. So it's been fun to watch how people choose to associate, and we've got a whole bunch more communities that we weren't really tapped into before. For example, the Reddit Mega Hub has popped up, which is kind of outside the Twitter sphere, but yeah, it's cool to watch these communities emerge, and it looks like it's kind of making it easier to connect across borders. So, for example, connecting to some of the Japanese nodes in the Diamond Hands community, it just makes it easier to find them without having some geographic information that may or may not be relevant for Lightning nodes.
Do you
No,
see this turning into like a tribalistic thing where, I'm going to join Plebnet and we're going to fight against Diamond Hands, rawr?
It could be. I think like cryptocurrency space in general is sometimes called tribal, but for Bitcoin stuff, I think of it as kind of like we might have a new moral economy, and we'll see like how that plays out. Whether there's like good actors and bad actors long term that people may want to associate with or not associate with. So I'm open to the idea that Lightning is very friendly right now, and but in the future it may not be that way. Shinobi had a great article about that this week.
Oh yeah,
Awesome.
Shinobi's post was pretty cool actually. He was talking about like how things like Plebnet were really neat, but weren't going to be like the main way people get liquidity in the future. Eventually, all these things are going to have to be, market based. People are going to like need to have a demand for liquidity for these things to, maintain themselves and persist, which I thought was a really awesome point. I always think something like a Plebnet is going to exist, but as fees on chain increase, like, it might end up looking a bit different. You might not be willing to open up a channel in like a pleb ring of fire if you don't have some sort of assurance that it's a high quality node, especially if the fees to open the channel are going to be substantially higher. So that was interesting to think about. And then the other half of his article was about, privacy on Lightning and, the constraints there at the moment, which is also a good point. There's still a whole lot of holes in Lightning that really need to be ironed out, especially if you're the receiver of payment. And, we really need to see things like rendezvous payments and trampoline routing really fleshed out and in use for us to really get around those issues. So yeah, definitely recommend giving that article a read. I mean, Shinobi's a really great guy in that he thinks about things from a lot of different angles, but he's also a grump a lot of the times, and he's like a bit of a pessimist. So you got to take that into mind when reading his content. But I think it was pretty on the money.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy those that bring in these kind of pessimistic viewpoints, because while they're not 100% useful at all times, always, I definitely see the value in thought processes that other people might avoid. I'm not a pessimist. I'm gonna Lightning's going to the damn moon and beyond or whatever, but I think I really appreciate people that fight against that and are willing to be like, no, this shit sucks right here. We need to do what we can to make it better and not just ignore it.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I think Lightning is perfect and needs no changes. So no, Shinobi's article was great. I like how he's kind of trolly and it gets people excited through his who's very pessimistic outlook, as Chaz said. I thought he had some great points in there, some good things to think about for the future, because altruism is eventually going to run out, and people will be greed motivated. But one thing I just think of like the Lightning Network is very disorganized right now, and I think in the future it will become more organized as people potentially share data or coordinate their activities a little bit more to understand where the fees are, like in the market, are, because everyone has their unique view of the network. But yeah, I love that article. Well done.
Fantastic. So I just want to jump in here really fast and kind of shill lightning Junkies slightly. But the way that I'm going to do that here is announce our next week's Lightning Friday, which is going to be a special one. It's going to be about Bolt 12 / offers for podcasters / content creators. And so for that special occasion, we're getting Rusty Russell, getting him up at 5:30 a.m. his time. And we're going to have Stefan Lavera also in there, a well-known podcaster. And we're also going to hopefully get Matt Odell. He can't give us a firm yes on whether or not he's going to show up, but we're hoping he'll be able to make it. And I think it's going to be an amazing Lightning Friday, because we're really going to get into the, what Bolt 12 can do for podcasters, how it can be very useful for recurring payments, and what that's going to look like, and how like the freaks, how the Lightning Junkies out there can, take that information and make it relevant in their own lives or for other people that might be podcasters or content creators. So be sure to look out for that. I'm going to be releasing the link for it tomorrow. And so you guys can start getting hyped for that.
Wow, what a crew. What a cast. How'd you make it happen, Chaz? That's great.
I asked very nicely.
See, sometimes that's all it takes. I love it. Okay, so yeah, next week is going to be awesome. I can't wait for that.
All right, though, but I think that's the kind of our introductions out of the way. How are we going to jump into this infrastructure bill? So maybe just by briefly going over what that is here. I'm not sure who doesn't know about it at this point, but there's this massive bill that's trying to be steamrolled into law, essentially. Besides, spending a stupid amount of money on infrastructure or whatever, printing more money, there's also these kind of very unclear amendments that are kind of baked into this bill that, the legal experts are saying is very problematic. What's your guys's view, just kind of on a high level here?
Well, so far it's not looking good, right? It feels like this is going to potentially be a pretty cataclysmic event. Maybe not necessarily for Bitcoin or Lightning as on their own, as the protocols, they're still going to keep chugging along. We're still going to get our Bitcoin blocks in every 10 minutes or so. But as far as the industry as a whole, and development and commerce, including cryptocurrencies in the United States, this could be really, really big and damaging for a lot of people. So in that regard, it's really scary. But at the moment, we really don't know how things are going to shake out. So we've got this infrastructure bill, right? And it's got a whole lot of pork. It's like 2,800 pages. If you go into it, it gets ridiculous. Like any typical United States bill, every lobbyist on the land has reached in to put some stupid provision or not that's going to get their buddies who are contractors a good deal, or, a stoke reduction of some other industry or some scheme they're involved in. There's even a provision about putting breathalyzers in all brand new cars. There's some really crazy stuff. But the fact that it reaches out and could have such profound repercussions for the cryptocurrency industry as a whole, that is somehow tied to infrastructure in some vague way, is sort of mind blowing, and definitely indicative of things being absolutely broken as far as politics in the
So
United
just
States.
So yeah, just to clarify a little bit, like the kind of broad language that's, in this bill is such that, lightning network routing nodes might fall into these laws where essentially you need to 1099 all of your counterparties and 1099 potentially all your routes. And since that's basically impossible with most counterparties, maybe possible with some of them, but the routing part I'm totally unclear on. I'm not a lawyer, but it just seems like the very broad language would allow, someone coming to me and being like, so you're a routing node, 1099, all your counterparties are shut down. Thanks.
Yeah, I think it changes the definition of what a broker is. And a broker would be someone that might be like an exchange. I think that was like the original intention, but then they expanded the definition of broker to anyone that I think the wording was effectuate a transfer of digital assets. And I'm not really clear what they mean by effectuate, because as routing nodes, we might be like passing value through our nodes, but it's that it makes it super unclear whether just running a node that has lightning functionality and having a couple of channels to your peers, whether that makes you effectuating these transfers. And also, like, if you're a developer around this, I was thinking about Amboss that we're essentially facilitating people getting the information to make transfers of digital assets. So does that mean that we're also effectuating transfers of digital assets? I mean, should I be KYCing the entire Lightning network? Is that what I'm being asked to do? Because if so, that might push me, outside of the country, if that's the way that the law is written.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, and I think that vagueness that you're talking about with the language, the vagueness of the language, that's intentional. The people in charge, they want the language to be vague so that they can pick and choose winners and losers and selectively punish the people that they want to punish with this vague phrasing. So us, as citizens of the United States, right, who are operating here, we want as clear language as possible so that there's no ambiguity that can be used against us if we, want to be, or if the people running the shots want to squash us, So that's one of the biggest problems. So we've got this bill, right? We've got this provision about cryptocurrencies and, who should be labeled a broker, correct, right? And now we've got some opposition to the bill in the form of a couple of amendments. So we got, I don't know them offhand, but the main one that's being pushed is with Cynthia Lummis, who is the Bitcoin senator. She co-authored that amendment with two other senators, and that provision would make sure that proof of work miners were clear, that node operators were clear. So that one's gotten a lot of support. There's come another provision that does not make things as clear for the node operators, despite leaving things in the clear for proof of work miners.
So that would be the Warner, right?
Warner? Who is it?
Yeah, the Warner Amendment. So the first one that you were talking with Lummis and Wyden, I think Wyden is like the chief author of that amendment that would puts node operators in the clear. And then the second amendment that you're talking about is the Turner, or sorry, I think it's the Warner one.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's Ron Wyden, Cynthia Loomis, and Senator Toomey.
That's right.
But then Wyden also came out and he wrote something about targeting proof of work and how it was, not environmentally friendly or whatnot. So that was concerning to me as well to see. Now the Warner Amendment also got a thumbs up from the White House and the Treasury, I believe, too, right? Which is definitely concerning as well. So that was really interesting to see. So things are really all over the place. There's a lot of different parties. There's also Ted Cruz, who wants to get rid of the provision on cryptocurrency entirely, which is probably the one we all should be pushing, but people are not doing that for strategic reasons. It seems a little silly to me. Why not just throw this all out entirely and save everyone? But alas, the game of politics can be quite fickle. So yeah, what do you guys think? Like, what do you think is going to be the most likely outcome of this? What implications does this mean for us as Lightning node operators? There's just a lot to unpack here.
So go ahead.
Oh, we also got a submission from our buddy Vivek about what is included as brokers between the two amendments that we're speaking about. So Loomis Toomey Wyden excludes brokers as validating distributed ledger transactions, selling hardware or software for the sole function to permit a person to control private keys, which are used for accessing a digital asset or a ledger, or digital assets on a ledger. And it also excludes developing digital assets on their corresponding protocols for use by other persons, provided that such other persons are not customers of persons developing such assets or protocols. Okay. And then Portman Warner excludes the following from being brokers: A, validating distributed ledger transactions through proof of work mining, or B, selling hardware or software, the sole function of which is to permit persons to control a private key. Wow. So it's actually developers that are not protected under this Portman Warner Amendment, it seems like, to me at least, which that's not good. I develop a wallet. So that's very interesting as well. So perhaps I'm wrong. So perhaps both amendments protect proof of work miners, but the latter is definitely targets proof of stake assets and software developers. Is that correct? What you guys would say?
This is like a listing of exclusions. So the Loomis Toomey Wyden one would exclude developers of these other currencies or whatever.
But the second, the Portman Warner, does not include those developers, and they would be targeted potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really a can of worms, and even with these amendments, like, there's still so much room for interpretation, however they really want here, and I mean, it's not reassuring. It's really sad in that I feel, as a United States citizen, we were given a blessing when China decided to ban mining, and it caused this influx of miners and just the industry decided to double down in a lot of ways and come to the States. At least when they weren't trying to go to Kazakhstan or places with even cheaper and questionable electricity. And now we're with this bill, with this provision in this infrastructure bill. I feel like we're almost giving it away. We're like, okay, China, thanks for the free lunch, but now we're just going to give this away to whoever else wants to step up. It's really sad if you're, patriotic about the United States. I think it's something to be really sad about.
Yeah, indeed. This stuff is going to. I mean, yeah, we watched China make a huge mistake with their mining ban, and now we're watching the restrictions like tighten up so much that really we, the operators in Bitcoin won't actually be able to comply with the law. So in effect, it's a ban. So that would be duplicating that mistake that we all watched China make. And then this last amendment, kind of drawing the line between proof of work and proof of stake. I look at that as just a way to divide all the beneficiaries of like the innovation up, so we're kind of fighting about proof of work, proof of stake, which they know is kind of that's a big dividing line in the space. And so I see that as a way to kind of pit us against each other, and maybe support something that is a lot more restrictive when it comes to innovation.
So
yeah,
where do you guys see, like, let's say the worst version of this passes, and now we're in this, like Jestopher was saying, we're in this kind of de facto ban state. Do you think a lot of the kind of Bitcoiners on Twitter, let's say, the people that are running these things, are really going to give a shit? Maybe we would have this different appearance on Twitter where we're like, yes, we're following the laws, obviously, but in reality, nothing has really changed in our setup, what have you. Like, Jestopher, your picture is Thomas Jefferson, and he's famous for saying that, I'm going to paraphrase, that if there is an immoral law out there, it's your responsibility to break that law. And I'm pretty sure it'd be the same situation here.
Yeah, I don't see any changes in our behavior, except for like we're just going to be less public about it. I think the motivation for including this provision at all was to actually raise funds for taxes, but I would see that being super counterproductive, just because the innovation is going to leave, and you're not going to be like privy to that innovation or that information or those tax benefits, because Bitcoiners are ready to pick up and go, or they're prepared to do jurisdictional arbitrage. We love talking about it.
Yeah, it's sort of nuts. It's going to be interesting to see if push really comes to shove and see what really goes down. Like, honestly, I don't know what I would do if this is really, at least there's some options that are starting to come up. I'm not El Salvador is anywhere it's comparable to living in the United States, at least pre-pandemic, right? But at least it's an option now. But yeah, I mean, I think that this sort of stuff is sort of uncharted territory. Like, we really have no idea. But Bitcoiners have really understood what the geopolitical implications of this could be. Understand the game theory of jurisdictional arbitrage. And, it's probably going to be very uncomfortable, but we may end up putting this to the test now. So let's see what happens.
I feel as though that Bitcoiners in general have been preparing for this kind of nebulous possibility for as long as I've been in Bitcoin. You know, part of the whole coin joining thing and privacy kind of just push within Bitcoin is about these adversarial environments, where, you know, we're fighting the state more directly. Like they've decided, you know, we're all ants and we need to be crushed. So we need to like take on all these adversarial like mindsets that we've built up over the years and start to take them very seriously. I think a lot of that information is already out there. Like we know how to respond. And on a kind of side note, I see this very much like the war on drugs. You know, if they end up going down this path, it's like, you know, how well were they, you know, the federal government, how well did they do at getting rid of drugs? You know, did they win the war on drugs? I think everyone that understand what's going on can know that the war on drugs was a complete and utter failure because it was impossible to enforce. So I think it's going to be very similar in the situation where the subset of people that you're really going to be going after are the ones that are most prepared to make it impossible for you to see them or to be able to find them or what have you. So I think even if this bill does pass, it's effectively going to be meaningless. You know, going to have people that are going to comply because they want to, you know, you might call them a statist or whatever, but whatever. But I think there are going to be people that might comply with it, but the grand majority of the people that are like us are going to have the ways to kind of sidestep it or route around the censorship.
That's for sure. But you know, it's really going to be interesting to see how this actually materializes in the United States. You know, it's certainly, at least in my eyes, not going to be an outright ban across the board, especially when you have, at least not of, you know, cryptocurrencies in some form or another. You have too many banks and corporations chefing up their own new cryptos, banks trying to figure out how to offer new offerings to their customers with this technology in one way or another. I think more than an outright ban, us as Bitcoiners should sort of anticipate, you know, an attempted co-opting of the space, stricter controls, you know, more strict taxation. And as Lightning operators, that might affect us in terms of, you know, what your reporting looks like with stuff like routing, channels you open up. Who knows, really? But I think the purpose of a lot of this stuff is to try to keep things vague enough that they can take it whichever way they want down the road, and you know, clamping down slowly to, you know, gear up to go in whatever direction they want. I think ultimately there's just so much money that they see as a potential source of revenue. That's sort of hard to ignore. But, you know, they also have to balance the interests of like the bankers and the central bank and, you know, the dollar is the world reserve currency. So, you know, none of these things that are happening are going to be straightforward. There are always going to be competing factions, especially as we have senators and other politicians start to line their pockets with Bitcoin and see it as a vehicle to escape, you know, currency controls and inflation. You can't just foresee what's going to happen as a complete loss. Like there's still hope for somewhat positive results in the States yet, regardless of how this shakes out. And even if we do get something really draconian at the end of the day, laws can change too, of course. But, you know, at the end of the day, you don't want to depend on the word of politicians or laws that are simply written on pieces of paper. You know, we're cypherpunks. We depend on the code. We depend on math. We depend on cryptography. And those are the things that we should put our faith in. And, you know, not the goodwill of your senator that you try to call up, not the goodwill of regulators that, you know, are trying to steer things one way or another, and definitely not the goodwill of lobbyists. And I think ultimately, more than a call to your senator or lobbying efforts, the most effective thing you can do in this space is to write code, submit a pull request that gives users more control of their privacy or their data. You know, propose like a new BIP that gives us more control of those things. Because ultimately, as we go further and further into the information age, the old ways of the old world are going to become less and less relevant. Yes, in the short term, things are going to become more arduous and burdensome, and things can really, really suck. And I foresee the next 5 years, not just in the States, but worldwide, to be really, really hairy and really difficult. But if we keep pushing in the right way, and we keep, you know, having this, you know, if we keep facilitating the spread of this technology, this tool of liberation, after this, what I foresee being a dark period, this next 5 years, I think after that, we could have an unprecedented era of human prosperity that, you know, simply stated, is worth fighting
for. Yeah. Yeah. Continue to write code by all means. And there's still a short window where you can advocate to your senators, you know, that you would like one amendment or another. You know, per se, I'd advocate for the Wyden-Lummis amendment, Wyden-Lummis to me, and because that vote happens tomorrow, I believe. So go ahead and give them a call, but then by all means, please continue to code and build this cypherpunk future and this better money that improves our situation. Kind of on the hopeful side of things, this is a bipartisan issue. We've got people from both sides of the aisle recognizing how important innovation is to our country, and to not stand in the way of that with a poorly drafted language inserted into this infrastructure bill that needs to pass, at least in their minds. So
absolutely. And you know, I completely sympathize and am grateful to a certain extent about the people, you know, lobbying and trying to change things from the inside. You know, like I was involved with politics to a certain extent, at least when Ron Paul was coming up and during his second campaign. But you know, ultimately, we can't depend on these things. Like the political institution is not something you should, you know, like lean upon for any assurances of any type. So, you know, if you go ahead and call your senator, and you know, a small win here would definitely go a long way. But like I said, do not, you know, trust your life in it. You know, don't trust your life savings in the political system. We have the tools to exit it, and you know, use the tools that are available to you. And you know, you just got to do what's best for you and your family.
should we take some questions, or people have some thoughts on infrastructure bill when it comes to Lightning?
So just to give you everyone a warning about that, I don't have the Twitter interface in front of me right now. It crashed, like my Android emulator crashed, including Twitter. So I have no ability to do anything. When this thing ends, I'll just have to I'll have to Control Alt Delete the thing closed on the task manager. But if anyone wants to send in a message to me, Evan, or Jestopher, in order for us to answer your question, we'd be happy to do that. I just have no ability to bring anyone up to the stage right now, unfortunately.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, yeah. Send those DMs, and I'll gladly read them.
While we're waiting on those, I have great news coming in, hot off the news feed. We've got a really awesome Bitcoin company that up until now has been on chain only, appearing to capitulate onto the second layer that we know as the Lightning Network. And that entity is Coinkite, the makers of the fine hardware wallet known as the Cold Card.
What?
So yeah, it looks like Rodolfo just posted a pub key and a host for a Lightning node. I just popped it into the very nice Amboss Lightning Network Explorer. That's amboss.space. And it appears the name of the node is coinkite.com. So really hoping that those guys offer up an option to pay with the Lightning Network for the next cold card at least. So keep your eyes on that. You guys can throw them some inbound liquidity so their customers can make some payments to them. That might also benefit you too with some rounding fees. And yeah, keep your eyes on it. Rodolfo's a really awesome person in this space, but up until now, didn't seem like he was too keen on Lightning and the upkeep that it requires, but seems like we've broken through to a certain point where it's becoming difficult to neglect. So very bullish signal indeed. If you guys haven't checked it out, go check out the cool card on coinkite.com. They also have a lot of awesome other projects like the Block Clock and Block Clock Mini. Really awesome company, and really glad to see them changing their tune. So yeah, check that out.
Wow, congrats, Coinkite. I'm excited to see that. And also see some on-chain maximalists capitulate. I love to see that. I also got a question from our friend Vivek asking, is your Bitcoin coding gulag accepting applicants?
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, as long as you're getting the same gulag, I don't see why not. The bigger question is what kind of processing and network connectivity we're going to have. We might have to stick to reg test. Hopefully we can get a LAN party going. We're really going to have to see. I think it's going to come down to whether the guards there accept sats and if we can grease a few palms, if you know what I mean. But yeah, sure, why not?
I just wanted to comment on the Coinkite news really fast here. Sorry not to keep the joke going, but I'm not sure if people are aware, but Coinkite has been in Bitcoin since I started in like 2013, actively looking at stuff in 2013. And back then they were purely doing multi-sig stuff. Like they had like a multi-sig setup that you could set up. And obviously have been responsible for one of the more interesting hardware wallets, the Block Clock. Like I can't afford that shit, but it looks really cool. And so it's very interesting to see where NVK is going to take this stuff. Like is he going to do some kind of Lightning HSM? I think he said something about that not really being his thing, but maybe he's changed his mind on that. Who knows?
So they have one piece of software that lines up with the cold card. It's called CK Bunker, so Coinkite Bunker, and that's set up. But for signing for on-chain transactions, so it's like acts like an HSM. You don't really have a solution like that for Lightning right now. There is one project that's on GitLab somewhere you guys could find called Lightning Signer, and I believe that's an effort to, write code on the major implementations to strip the signing functionality out to, dedicated devices. So perhaps it could come down the line, and I could definitely see it just being an extension of the existing CK Bunker suite right now. Like, why wouldn't you? So that would be really cool to see. But yeah, I think it's mostly software limitations right now. I know that in the last year, Lightning Labs and L&D have split out their signing methods into a separate RPC. I think furthermore, they need to split up the sub process to be able to run on its own. But yeah, it sounds like people are working on it. I haven't really taken a deep dive into the code, but it's definitely on people's minds. So we'll see what happens there. That would definitely be cool to see. But yeah, definitely encouraging nonetheless. Obviously, we talked about it a little bit last week, but Coinkite's also working on the new Mark IV cold card. Looks like it's going to have NFC built in. It's going to give us some of that functionality that we see with those air-gapped devices with the cameras and QR codes on their color screens. They have the same sort of functionality, but instead of doing it with like a line of sight with an image and scanning cameras, you just tap a device to each other with that near field communication, that NFC, the same tech that you use when you're at the gas station or at like proof of sales point of sales terminal where you just tap your credit card to pay. Yeah, we got to bring that tech to Bitcoin. So, like I said, I still have a lot of work to do with Zeus and the redesign and a lot of other components, but we want to bring that to our wallet too, and hopefully encourage the rest of the community to implement that tech. So seeing Coinkite start to implement that is really awesome, and I'm sure a lot of other wallets will join that effort. So really pumped about that too. Okay, we got a question in from Geistlight. What's up, Geistlight? He's listening in right now. He says the bill on page 2,436. Jesus, like so many pages in this thing. The text says, any broker who transfers a digital asset from an account maintained by such broker to an account which is not maintained by another broker shall report it. And he says Lightning nodes don't transfer digital assets from their accounts to other people's accounts. Does that mean they're exempt from reporting requirements? This is a great question. I would think on paper they are exempt. But I think what I said earlier about the vagueness of legal text still holds true. I feel if it's enough of a problem for people, that being, the people up top, the IRS, anyone who wants to target us, I really don't think that would give us exemption. Perhaps a legal battle would follow suit. But I think it's also another great display of why code is so much better than law, like law that could be interpreted a million different ways. Like even something as simple as the Bill of Rights, which, has a lot of very clear language, in my opinion, is debated through and through to this very day. So to think that any certain language in any of these bills is really going to give us 100% exemption and there won't be entities trying to take advantage of, any arrangement of these words, I think it would be foolish. So don't bank on it. It could be interpreted to say that we are exempt. However, things can change very quickly behind the scenes. And, it just really depends on how bad and how many resources people with power want to expend. to target you. So don't bank on it. If you can, try to take good measure to protect yourself. Don't be a fool like me, where I have my identity associated with my Lightning nodes online. You might want to keep operating as a NIM or only show that code to your friends. Obviously also join your coins and use mixed outputs for opening your channels. And, consider also mixing those outputs from your closed channels too, at least until we have some better obfuscation with Taproot in place. So, be very mindful, folks. There's a lot of places where things could go wrong, like privacy on Lightning, even when you're just dealing with stuff on L2. Is far from perfect, especially if you're the receiver. So, be careful out there. And like always, even if something is spelt out clear as day, it doesn't mean that someone is not going to challenge it down the road from a legal perspective.
One piece that was pointed out was that these changes wouldn't take effect until 2023. But that was pointed out in a Clubhouse room, so please do your own research on that.
Yeah, nothing on this nothing on this spaces / podcast should be taken as legal advice or financial advice, but I think that goes without saying.
Right.
We're just a couple of enthusiasts and hobbyists, I would say, and don't take our word as gospel. Verify, and don't take it as legal advice. So
right. I mean, this thing is, yeah. This law is written so vaguely that, I mean, it will probably need to be interpreted in courts, and what was the intention of this bill when they wrote it. It seems to be that they were trying to find tax revenue in all the places and increasing the reporting requirements as a way to fight what they perceived as tax evasion.
Yeah, but anything could be labeled as tax evasion. Like, think about it. Like, all the biggest criminals are, at least what they paint the biggest criminals are to be, like Al Capone. Like, they don't get them on mob stuff or racketeering or any of that stuff. Like, they pinch all those people on tax stuff because the code is just so arduous. I mean, partially because it's so hard to change. They can only tack more things onto it, but it's the easiest way to get people. So, just be careful out there, freaks. It's a little, it's gonna get a little hairy, but I'm optimistic in that things wouldn't take effect until 2023, like Jestopher pointed out. And I just hope, and I think it will. I think this is gonna light a fire under a lot of people's asses. I think we're gonna get a lot more protocol changes that help us with our privacy quicker than we expect. I mean, obviously, we're going to get Taproot, activated in the fall. Very high possibility of that happening. Some people will say, you still need the miners buy-in, but effectively, it's ready to go. And then, development on the Lightning Network. I think a lot of people's focus is going to shift towards, providing more privacy to people, as they know that, they're coming for us. This should be a sort of a canary in the coal mine moment. These people, they see what's happening. What's really happening is we're seeing hyper Bitcoinization play out before our very eyes. Really, who would have thought that in 2021, the biggest bill of the year, pretty much, or might be the biggest bill of this administration, even in this infrastructure bill, the biggest talking points around it are revolving around proof of work, proof of stake, and cryptocurrency, and how that should be regulated.
I have sorry to jump in, but you're bringing up a very interesting question, I think, Evan, is there something else in this bill that they're hiding and making a canard out of this whole crypto thing? And so we're totally distracted and don't notice that they're doing something super evil 10 pages away or something.
While that is totally possible, these senators that are supposed to represent us have most definitely not read the whole thing. That's definitely a possibility, Chaz, but I feel like there are enough people with, let's say they're eccentric characters and they're combing through it. I think most of the pork has been revealed, but I really can't say for sure. I really can't just trust anyone vaguely. You really can't know unless you verify yourself and read it all. I don't know. There's a lot of just money going to contractors for like stupid tasks. There's stuff that's going to shake up the auto industry if they keep this provision in for mandating breathalyzers to start every car that gets manufactured after 2023. I don't know. It's just like one of those bills. Like you give it a great cozy name with the general purpose beneath it is something that people generally want. Like it's hard to say that you don't want infrastructure. I mean, you might debate about whether you want the government providing that for you or not. It's like these bills that have like these lofty names that are hard to, be against, that they really sneak in the most pernicious stuff, like the Patriot Act, right? Like if you oppose that, it's like, oh, what? You're not a patriot? What, are you with the terrorists? So like if you come out against the infrastructure bill, you're like, what? You're going to get painted as someone who wants potholes everywhere? It's really evil and sinister. So I don't know. I from what I've seen, like other than the stuff I mentioned, crazy contract money going out and this stupid breathalyzer thing, I haven't seen anything else like that. But yeah, that's definitely a distinct possibility. I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking about possible distractions that might happen. Oh, and a quick reminder, we are taking questions via DM since we can't bring up speakers. But let's see. I think on the distraction front, there's Gary Gensler coming out. And, he's got some very positive things to say about Bitcoin, which kind of might put some Bitcoiners at ease. But I think we got to keep our eyes on the prize here, which is, this infrastructure bill has to pass. So we got to fix that language in the letter of the law, not the virtuous words of Gary Gensler, although do appreciate the dude.
All right. I'm not sure if we have too much else to say about the infrastructure bill. Do we want to maybe move on to RGB here?
Sure. We got RGB news. Wow, that would be awesome. What you got?
Something is happening and I don't get it.
that was just something for me. Honestly, I cannot for the life of me understand what RGB is. So I'm really looking forward to a good, simple explainer for a simple guy like myself.
Client-side validation and Peter Todd is pretty much what Giacomo told me in the episode that we had. Go ahead, Evan.
Okay, from my understanding is RGB is a protocol for doing colored coins, right? I think it works. They have an implementation that works on chain, but they're arguing about what the best way to get this working on Lightning is. How you're able to do it. Do these assets have to have their own channels? But it seems like there's just been a lot of debate and no real straight path forward on any of these implementations. So we've just been sitting pretty and waiting to see what happens. If Peter Todd is getting involved, I have a great amount of respect for Peter Todd. He's really a bright guy, and that would definitely be a good sign if he was working closely with their team. But other than that, it's really hard to say how far along things are unless we see code that you could run. So to contrast, something like OmniBolt, which is a extension of OmniLayer, which is like another sort of colored coin solution for Bitcoin, like that has a solution that you could go run right now. Like you can run their client, I think it's OBT or something, and you could at least run it on testnet. I'm sure you could get it running on mainnet if you had enough beers to do it with. But despite its flaws or whatever, the fact that you need like dedicated channel for each asset, which probably doesn't make the most sense, and probably what RGB is trying to find a workaround for. At least software is there. With RGB, like all we're hearing is from the developer meetings, what's going on. So we're really just looking forward to them making a little bit more progress.
So,
but yeah, it would definitely be really interesting to be able to trade other assets on LN. But we really need to see some software. Otherwise, to be honest, guys, like I think solutions like this might be better suited for something like DLCs.
So without getting into DLCs yet, we could definitely talk about that. But I just wanted to clarify really fast that Peter Todd is not involved, I don't believe. The idea on how it works is based on his work on client-side validation. I honestly, like, I had this podcast with Giacomo Zucco where I had him explain RGB. I kind of get it. It's fine. But the overall impression that I even got from Giacomo is RGB kind of sucks. Like OmniBolt kind of sucks. And that's kind of the impression that what I walked away from, that it wasn't really his baby. He doesn't care that much about it. Maybe he's even like not focusing on it so much anymore, that it's really the other people that are heavily involved in it that are doing most of the work. But he did not seem genuinely convinced that it could actually do anything or it was that useful. And I guess I would probably agree, like, not to insult any Blockstream fans in the room, but I don't really like Liquid. I don't really like RGB as I kind of basically understand it. Giacomo kind of explained how OmniBolt kind of sucked and how it had a specific limitation that made it sound very suboptimal. I don't remember what that is, to be honest, at the moment. But I guess it's getting assets on Lightning and getting these assets on here sounds kind of interesting. I just don't know how much I give a shit at the end of the day. I don't, some people might want to swap their Bitcoin for Tether or something. That's generally the use case that people can come up with in this situation. But beyond that, it reminds me of a lot of shit that existed in 2015. You had your counterparty. You had these other names that I can't even remember of these companies that would allow you to create colored coins on chain. And obviously those weren't long for the world because, on-chain assets kind of suck for one. Okay, fine. But I also think that just asset trading isn't a Bitcoin thing. Like, maybe eventually we want it to be. But like, I think that our niche is not asset trading. I'm happy to kind of leave that to other bullshit that I don't care about, and have the Bitcoin Lightning Network be about payments and other fancy shit that we can do, and not about how can we re-implement Ethereum on the Lightning Network. Like, I don't even want to approach that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I understand why a lot of people want to do it, but we also don't want to convolute our really awesome network with all this extra BS. So I'm with you on that. I think people should definitely look into DLCs and what's going to be possible once we get Taproot activated. with having those DLCs run through Lightning. I think that's going to really serve like pretty much all the cases that a reasonable person who's not just trying to, just scam people with like made up assets. Like it facilitates like bets and different sorts of market actions. You could even have stable coins on there in some form with these DLC backed contracts. So yeah, I'm definitely more bearish on those sort of projects than I was earlier. That being said, we still need DLCs to come to fruition on Lightning, though we definitely still need Taproot in the mix for that really to start flying. But yeah, definitely don't want to write off Omnibolt or RGB quite yet. But we got to see them in action. We got to see people using them too. On that note, guys, I got to split off early. So sorry to leave y'all hanging. We like to usually do 2 hours, but I got another commitment I got to attend to.
Boo.
I know, but at least we're going to make it up to everyone with a really awesome app next week. It's going to be jam-packed. You kidding me? We got Rusty, Stefan, maybe Odell. I'm sure I could guilt Odell unless he's doing like something really awesome that day. I'm sure we could get him on. So yeah, what do you guys think? You guys could keep running, guys. It's cool with me, but we could also call it here if you want.
I think we're going to keep on going for another 15 minutes or so. That's what we were planning, about an hour and a half today. We're not going to do the full 2 hours, but I think we have a couple more things to hit before we close out.
All right. Well, I'll catch you guys later. Love y'all. Have a good episode.
See you, dude.
Peace, Evan. Thanks. What did you want to hit next?
Okay, so a kind of relatively minor one, just for lulls here. So I see Jack added the Lightning Network emoji. Are we about to see Lightning Network on Cash App? Are we about to see a Lightning Network on Twitter? And we're just going to be bathing in Lightning Network from all sides here.
I'm pretty excited about that one. So, like, as far as like his Miami announcements, he seemed to be mostly talking about a hardware device. Now, this addition of that lightning bolt, that's definitely exciting for Lightning. Okay, does that mean that he's focusing on running nodes now, or is it sort of a hybrid of the two? Is that maybe he's working on a hardware device that could work for Lightning? That would be the most bullish scenario for in my mind.
He obviously talked to NVK and decided that this is the way to go here. Get all these a hardware wallet get the kind of hardware wallet knowledge from Coinkite and kind of roll with it and figure out how to turn that into some kind of Lightning Network thing. Like, I'm not sure that's it, but I think you definitely hit it on the head that it could be, I'm supporting Lightning on a personal basis and maybe hinting. I think he wouldn't do that if it was only a personal thing. Hello?
Right.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, a whole bunch of people have lightning bolts in their profiles, myself included. We got quite a few here in the audience. It's always a nice thing to add. But yeah, that usually tells me that you're like Lightning enabled, like you run a node that I might be able to transact with you over the Lightning Network.
Absolutely. So, but I mean, I think like I've had a conversation with Miles Suter, who's the product manager for Cash App, and he pretty much made it clear to me that it's, they're going to do it eventually. They're going to add support for the Lightning Network. And I think Jack at a different point said the same thing about Twitter. So I guess it's like maybe this is an interesting question. So we're not just focusing on Jack or Cash App. Would it be a kind of net positive if Cash App and Twitter both like implemented some custodial Lightning Network thing? Would that be a good thing, or would that end up getting people used to the very suboptimal way of doing things? What do you think about that?
I've never been opposed to like using custodial services for Lightning for small amounts, but just like we've got different campaigns in the Bitcoin space to like not your keys, not your coins, that type of thing to ensure that the people are aware that custodial solutions should never be permanent. So I feel like we're in a pretty good place, for that, so that we could be prepared to campaign to say like, don't keep all your funds on Twitter or on Cash App. I mean, already we've got a campaign to like take your funds off of Cash App and don't keep them in that in-app wallet. Take them off to a wallet that you control. And there's some really good Lightning wallets where it is not custodial. I mean, even Breeze, I think, is probably the easiest.
Okay, and then I just got a question from Lightning Cat, the other person that works with me on Lightning Junkies here, and they're asking, what would Lightning on Twitter look like? So what would the actual UX be in real life? What do you think, Jestopher?
I would imagine it would be sort of a tipping thing that comes to mind first. But let's see. I have heard some developments about coming out of Lightning Labs or Roast Beef specifically about getting Lightning as part of like the internet-based protocol, part of like the HTTP stuff. So then you could actually have paid articles that maybe Twitter would be equipped to pay the paywall in order to read a certain article, because those paywalls drive me absolutely nuts. I think that would be the best user experience beyond just tipping each other, which has historically been part of lots of different platforms in the past.
And then Kat had a pretty good idea here to kind of pair with the tipping idea, maybe making it a little bit clearer. So Twitter, I believe, has been experimenting with charging for entry into a Twitter space, but maybe a different way to do this, if we had, streaming payments or something, is to just, pay per minute of listening to this. If you're in here, you join, maybe you pay an amount to join, maybe you pay an amount to listen, whatever the case might be. But I think streaming sats could be a very easy one. And if that was just like, I think like you mentioned that Roast Beef is, working on this thing that might eventually replace Lightning Joule as like the de facto way to control your Lightning node within a Chrome browser, for example, and that a lot of these things are just going to be baked into the experience of your browser. So that's like, I can't, my brain wants to get very excited about it, but I'm trying to temper myself so I don't get excited too soon here. But that definitely seems like an easy way, quote unquote, for Twitter to implement that and to create all kinds of different UX experiences that we may not be able to easily come up with right away, but just providing the toolbox should be a very great start there.
That's actually a great point, because Jack did jump on that NFT train, and I think that was, he seemed to be angling towards supporting content creators. So that would fall in line that maybe you might stream sats to some really awesome hosts of Lightning Friday Twitter space, like that, I mean, it seems like a great use of sats to me personally.
Not to get too much of a tangent down that idea, but I love the idea. And since there's 3 hosts, let's say, and I think next week we're going to have like up to 6 people as speakers for all this. So I wonder if you could stream it and then have it split to each person. So each person gets a piece. Or I guess you could technically tip one particular person. One person's making really good points or whatever. But I kind of like the idea of just joining a Twitter space and having the sats get equally split. So I don't need to play favorites or think about it too much. But yeah.
There's already a project that does split payments, isn't there?
Yeah, I believe Ben Ark made something for Crypto Graffiti. I think that's the one I'm thinking of right now, where he was DJing and the payment was split between him and another person. I can't remember exactly who the other person was. Maybe the music person actually made the music. But regardless, yeah, you're right. That does exist.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's and I also remember hearing Impervious AI talk about using split payments as well so that they're not they're not becoming a money transmitter, so that they can receive certain fees but also make a payment peer to peer, so that they didn't have to be the intermediary for all of the payment. So it sounds like the technology exists, so you could split a payment between like I guess 6 hosts, or you could maybe just start with 2, but that would be amazing. Very exciting.
Alrighty, and then let's go ahead and hit this last question in order to kind of close out the show here. Do you have a right to be forgotten on a Lightning Network Explorer? What do you think?
It's a big one that I've been thinking about. Let's see. So recently I got a request to delete their alias history off of Amboss, and I think it was for some trolley purpose. Well, I had to take some pause for that, because like under GDPR, which is the privacy law in Europe, you do have a right to be forgotten. And I feel like the intention behind that is, social media companies will just have a picture of you, and maybe with some compromising picture, and like, is that going to follow you around for the rest of your life? Because the internet seems to like never forget. However, us as humans, like we do forget things. However, when it comes to Lightning and something that is kind of just fleeting, I'm not sure if it seems appropriate to delete something from a network explorer. And I was looking at like 1ML and some of the others, and they might have the data. So really anyone that has a database attached to their Lightning Network implementation would also have this data. So when it comes to like blockchain or land or this network land, it seems like anybody could be hosting this data, and removing it from one platform wouldn't necessarily make it go away, because you could just find it elsewhere.
Right, and I think that's kind of where I'm at with it. That it's like, for example, like how long ago was this? Like 2019, I think the middle of 2019, that Casa had their nodes. And as I'm sure you know, when Casa first launched their nodes, they did not have Tor capability yet. So you're basically connecting this thing and saying, hey, everyone, look at my home IP address. Isn't it great? And, obviously that's suboptimal. Obviously, you don't want to tell anyone about your node, and you're just using some funny name, and so people don't know who you really are. But like if, let's say I change the name to Lightning Junkies on that old Casa node, and I'm like, oh wait, fuck, I shouldn't do that because people are gonna know, you know, where exactly I am and, you know, all that. But like, I don't think I would have a good argument, really. Like if I came to you and said, hey, can you please take that off of Amboss, please? Like, I think maybe your position should be sure, but you please be aware that there are multiple Lightning Network explorers and probably people in secret that are keeping this information. So I'll be happy to take it off my platform, but it's not going to do shit, just FYI. But then I also kind of understand it from a kind of public information perspective, you know, specifically saying, well, you know, we could take it off, but since so many other places have this information, there's zero reason to take it off, and it's also of the public interest. So, you know, it's the onus is not on the Lightning Network Explorer. The onus is on the person who owns the node. So if you're broadcasting your shit to the world, well, don't broadcast your shit to the world and you're fine. You know, close that node down, begin a new one, put it on Tor, you know, whatever you need to do in order to kind of handle that. But like, I think going to a service provider means that it's already too late. You're already fucked up, and now you're trying to repair it, but you're not going to repair anything. You're just going to make yourself feel better by taking it off of Amboss, but 1ML has it, and who knows if the IRS is watching or what have you.
Right. Yeah, it's the IP address that, you know, I see on 1ML, and that causes a whole bunch of problems for people privacy-wise, because, you know, when you first turn on your node, you're probably not familiar with all of the features that could help keep it private. So that's a big problem, and I really don't want to be in the place to list those historical IPs. If it's something where someone like put some private information on there, you know, for example, put a couple of their seed words as their alias, like, please do not do that. But if they did, then I would be inclined to delete that information. But also, yeah, move your funds off that node and start a new wallet at that point. Yeah, don't put your funds at risk.
So to answer the question, though, sorry, but to kind of just bring it back around and answer the question, I think people have the right to be forgotten on a Lightning Network Explorer in some sense, but having a right and having an actual ability to in real life are two different things.
That's a fantastic point. Like, yes, we can remove data from our Explorer, but however, there's so much redundancy in the network that would have that information that really it would just be us virtue signaling to fix your problem. It wouldn't meaningfully change the situation of, you know, your private information being out there, or, you know, that would be the worst case. But yeah, it's at the end of the day, you are responsible for the information that you're broadcasting on these networks.
Yeah, stop broadcasting so much data, and you know,
as a service, yeah,
right. But I mean, I feel like that's just the bottom line. You can't rely on the service provider. You know, assume the service provider is a spook, is being an asshole, whatever. But, you know, assume that they do not have your best intentions at heart. Defend yourself however you can otherwise. And yeah, like, I think that's the most healthy way to approach this. You know, your privacy, like, I think your privacy on the Lightning Network is essentially you get it right the first time and you make any mistakes, you're fucked. And that's basically the name of the game. So if you start your Casa node before they had, you know, Tor, and you keep using it until the present day, you know, pull up 1ml.com, you could see that IP and, you know, fuck them for forever. So it's the same kind of thing on Bitcoin, that if you make one mistake, with your IP or with your UTXOs, that you're fucked going forward. So, slow down, think about what you're doing, make sure you're not revealing any information, go over everything, make sure you try to understand as much as you possibly can fit into your noggin there, and don't make these mistakes, because if you do, you're going to get fucked potentially. If this bill turns into something real, maybe they'll start going after the nodes in the United States, and start just, suing them somehow. I don't know if that's even realistic. Maybe I'm just being dumb on that side. But regardless, it's better for you to not connect your physical IP with your Lightning node that you potentially might advertise to people on the internet. Just don't do that. That's not good, kids.
That sound advice. Yeah. Thanks, Chaz. Yeah. Practice good OPSEC, good information hygiene, and don't let these bits of information get you into trouble. So if you don't do it right the first time, thankfully it's not too expensive to try it again and not make those same mistakes.
I think that's pretty much it for today's Lightning Friday. Did anyone want to get any last-minute DM questions in that we should cover here at the very end? You have like a minute before I stop talking and end the show here. But in the meantime, I want to go ahead and thank Evan Kaludis and Jestopher for joining me as hosts here. And don't forget to check out Zeus Wallet. Everyone knows what Zeus Wallet is. And don't forget to check out Amboss as well, the Lightning Network Explorer of choice. Really fast here to kind of end the show. Sorry, you had a thing to say.
Oh, and thank you, Chaz. And be sure to check out Lightning Junkies, a fantastic Lightning podcast.
Yes, our next show that is coming up is not coming out until the 11th, I believe, or maybe the 18th. Don't sue me if I'm wrong on that. But our next host is Richard Myers, who is the guy that does the Lot 49 thing, which is basically a different form of the Lightning Network made to work for mesh networks, kind of low bandwidth networks, essentially. So kind of stripping out a lot of the gossip stuff and stripping out as much of that stuff as possible in order to make it so you could have a Lightning node routing on a mesh network without having direct access to the internet. So that's our next episode. Be out on the lookout for that. I did not see any DMs come in, so I think we're going to go ahead and close out the show. I want to thank everyone for showing up. I want to thank everyone that might have watched us on YouTube, both the YouTube for Amboss and the YouTube for Lightning Junkies. Do you have anything else you want to add here before we close it out?
Thanks so much for showing up, and see you next week.
I'll see y'all